देवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीर्मुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरोन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Would you like to summarize last week's class?
Prabhuji, I've made some notes, but it's too much because I would like to hear from you, Prabhuji, because you are supposed to tell us that how do we tell people, about, how do we explain to people? Last time some Prabhuji asked you, there's so many points were discussed, yes, last time about,
Uh,
so,
it's not uh, this topic is not some core. It's not the main topic that only because uh, only when people get convinced then a person can practice bhakti, or only when a person, if a person thinks that I come from the spiritual world, then a person can practice bhakti. Uh, this is not a main important point. The main point is Krishna being the Bhagavan and the Jivatma Swarupa, Jivera Swarupa Hoi Krishnera Nityadas. That is why a person has taken to bhakti, because the Swarupa of the Jivatma is to serve Krishna. It's not because that you have come from the spiritual world, therefore you have to go there. Because if you are convincing based on that argument, at some point of time, the person will come to know that actually there is no Shastric Pramana that we have come from the spiritual world. It is a more emotional way of convincing a person. Oh, you have come from there, therefore you have to go there. Emotional way is that you don't, sometimes the emotional method of convincing is used, but that is not a foolproof thing actually. Like when Narada Muni, he spoke Kuta Shloka to Haryashvas. And then the Haryashvas understood the meaning of that Kuta Shloka, and then they renounced everything. They take to full devotional service. And then when Narada Muni met the Savalashvas, he told that, "Oh, you are all brothers of the Haryashvas. You should just follow in the footsteps of your brothers." He just took advantage of the affection they had towards the Haryashvas and encouraged them to follow in their footsteps. So the point is that, but you cannot adopt this method all the time. That because they had affection towards them, so therefore Narada Muni dovetailed them. So sometimes one may try to convince a person to take to bhakti on an emotional level. Prabhupada said that what is the use of being an American if you cannot do something wonderful for Lord Chaitanya? So Prabhupada took advantage of their pride of being an American to encourage them to do something wonderful. So similarly, sometimes the acharyas, although there is no shastric pramana for a person having come to the spiritual world, uh, the shastras very clearly say anadya vidya. Sometimes the acharyas are mentioned that they gave a cause for fall down. But that can but making that statement which is spoken at a particular time, place, and circumstance, making that contextual statement as a universal statement, that is not the sound this one. So for a newcomer, it's better to we can just show directly the words of the Shastra after actually telling a person how the importance of the Shastric Pramana. First, we have to convince a person about the Shastric authority. Then once we present the Shastric authority, the importance of the Shabda Pramana, then we can just show the direct words from the Shastra. Anadya Vidya Yuktasya Purushasya Atma Vedanam Tatona Sambhavadanyas Tatvagyo Jnanado Bhavet. So Anadya Vidya Yuktasya. That's why I showed different references where repeatedly, consistently, same thing is mentioned. Anadya Vidya, Anadya Vidya, Anadya Vidya. So once you the first thing about for any preacher, we have to bring a person to accept the Shastric authority, the words of the Shastra. Initially, we may try to somehow encourage a person to render some devotional service. That's all right. But at a certain point, we have to bring a person the Shastric authority because that is the very basis. I showed the quotation that how out of the three Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, Prabhupada says that Shastras are the real center. Shastras are the real center because you cannot quoting the particular acharya that will be accepted only within the particular sampradaya. The statements of the acharya will be accepted as universal. A statement of any sadhu will be accepted as an universal truth only when it is supported by the Shastra. So therefore, that the importance of the Shastric authority, that is the core thing. Shraddha hi Shastrartha Vishwasa. Shraddha means having faith in the meaning of the words of the Shastra. And then once we bring a person to the Shastric authority, because our Acharya Srila Prabhupada, he started the movement based on the foundation of the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto. We see Srila Prabhupada's dedication to writing books and encouraging to distribute the books. Books are the basis, he mentioned. Books are the basis. He founded the movement based on the books. And then at a certain point in time, in order to manage the movement, he appointed a GBC. He started a GBC body. The GBC is the managerial body. GBC is not a basis of the movement. Basis of the movement is the books actually. So any authority, whether it is a GBC or a temple president or a guru or any person, to the extent a person is representing the Shastra, to that extent we actually accept that person, we respect that person. When we have a doubt that somebody is not representing the Shastra, then we humbly inquire by following the Vaishnava principles of culture. So, uh, therefore, that has to be kept in mind. The main thing is that whenever the discussion comes, that we have to bring the point to the Shastric authority and then show the statements of the Shastra. And it's a very simple thing. Anadi, it doesn't require some Sanskrit scholarship. It's not that you have to go through some Sanskrit grammar study to understand. Anadi means that which is not Adi. No beginning, actually. So then how can, when people ask that, how can it be? There has to be some cause. There has to be some cause. Why then we divinities are Anadi, why others are Nitya Siddha, why we are only Nitya Baddha? That is why the question, these questions, these truths fall in the realm of Achintya. They fall in the realm of Achintya. So we have to, that's why Shastra, the purpose of Shastra is what? I'll show you a shloka. What is the definition of a Shastra? This is a beautiful shloka from Hitopadesh. The definition of a Shastra is that uh, Parokshartasya, that the shloka starts actually. Anyway, I forget the, I'm not able to find here. But the point is that Shastra, the purpose of Shastra is to obtain knowledge which you cannot obtain with your mind and intelligence and the senses. That is the very purpose of Shastra. Parokshartasya. So, just because it is not conceivable to your mind, there has to be a cause for your jiva to come to the spiritual world, in the material world. There has to be a cause, there has to be a cause. Just because it is not conceivable, you cannot accept, you cannot deny the words of the Shastra. Shastras are saying Anadi Avidya. You just have to put the implicit faith in the words of the Shastra. So then how do we defend the words of the Acharyas? Because Acharyas, that's why I mentioned that we have a duty to defend the words of the Acharyas. Prabhupada has mentioned in some places. Prabhupada has given both the replies. I already showed that three purports in the third canto, 15th chapter. Very crystal clear purport. Damn clear that nobody can fall from the spiritual world. Such a damn clear purports, three purports. Because there is also one purport I mentioned, fourth canto, 28th chapter, how the Jivatma was there with Krishna. Prabhupada, in the spiritual world, like Prabhupada says. But there's a three purports in third canto. The fourth canto purport should be seen in the light of the Puranjana allegorical story. The allegorical story, the Brahmana, a old Brahmana meets Vaidarbhi and says that, do you not remember me? I am your very old friend. That is the verse he's speaking. In that connection, Prabhupada is writing that purport. And according to the allegorical story, Narada himself says in the fourth canto, 29th chapter, that the old Brahmana, the allegorical story, represents the Paramatma. The Prabhupada, when he is writing that Jiva is there with Krishna in the spiritual world, so it has to be saying that it is referring to the Paramatma. So, but there are three purports in third canto. And we have to, and of course, there are many conversations where Prabhupada has spoken, Jiva came to the spiritual world. But then, logically speaking, how many books of conversation do we distribute every year, the marathon? How many Bhagavatam sets we distribute? How many times we publish the Prabhupada's conversation and distribute every year? We distribute the Bhagavatam sets and the Prabhupada's purports are there. And there are three purports consecutively where Prabhupada is mentioning them. So naturally, we give more importance to in order to be, when somebody reads the book and comes, we are not distributing the conversation. So then we have, what we are speaking should be consistent with what is there in the books. Yeah, it's not generally Acharyas, even in a conversation, they speak the Shastric truth only. But sometimes there is a contextual truth. How do we recognize the contextual truth? When the contextual truth doesn't agree with the Shastra, then we have to recognize it as a contextual truth. So, so in order to be consistent with what is there in the books, we have to speak what is there in the books, is purports. And more than that, that is what agrees with the Shastra. So, we have to, I would say simply that, just so emphasize the importance of the Shastric Pramana, Shabda Pramana, more than the Pratyaksha and Anuman. Especially for subject matter which you cannot understand with your mind and senses. And then after that, just to show the words of the Shastra. That's all. And because, and if sometimes some people are very much adamant, then we don't have to, if some people are adamant, we come with the spiritual world. It's not that we have to convince about this thing. We do not come to the spiritual world. Because it's not a main topic, it is a side topic. Because our practice of bhakti does not depend on the fact that we are coming from the spiritual world. Our practice of bhakti depends on the fact that we are Jivera Swarupohi Krishna and Natyatat. Our Swarupa is to serve Krishna. So therefore, even if somebody is adamant on accepting that oh, Jiva came from the spiritual world, don't have to bother. Just go ahead. Then this thing. Is it understandable?
Yes, Prabhuji, very well explained. Thank you so much.
Well, this is
Prabhuji, this Narayan Acharya is the one who wrote those 18 days.
yes.
Mhm.
So there, of course, in this purport, a detailed analysis given. Let us see to some extent analysis will see. So suppose, so falling from the spiritual world, suppose hypothetically if we say that a jiva has fallen from the spiritual world to the material world. So these are some 6 conditions which one may think before a jiva falls down. And let us see how these conditions, whether they can be valid or not. One is that the jiva comes to the material world inspired by his free will. Or second, he commits a sin and comes to the material world. Or third, he is cursed by a devotee, or he is cursed by the Lord. Fourth, he offends a devotee, or he offends the Lord. Or sixth is the Lord decides to make him fall down, as he is free to do as he likes. So let us see whether these 6 conditions can be valid. It's a detailed explanation, but I'll explain briefly. So if we take the first condition, the jiva chooses to come to the material world, the freedom. So in this connection, there are totally some 6 points. The first point is that the swarupa of a devotee is that a devotee simply desires the pleasure of the Lord. That a devotee's very nature is to be in undiminishing, unbreakable, all-consuming love for God, to long only for his bliss through naturally arising service and devotion. So such devotees never desire material or spiritual opulence without bhakti, because they desire nothing independent of Bhagavan. In the very Bhagavatam verse, we saw that devotees do not hanker even for the transcendental glory of God. Furthermore, spiritual opulences and material opulences are fully available, are fully made available to the devotee at every moment by the mercy of the Lord. That's what we saw in the Bhagavatam verse. Mama Mayaya Chitam. Then why will the devotees yearn for that which eternally sits in the palm of one's own hand? Why will he use the free will to yearn for something, some material opulence or something? Because that is eternally made available to him. And even Kapila Dev says that elsewhere, Salokya Sarishti Samipya Sarupya Ikatvam Apyuta Diyamanam na Grihnanti Vinamat Sevanam Jana. My devotees don't accept even the other personal liberation without if they see that there is no, if it is devoid of service to me. If it is devoid, they don't accept any kinds of liberation, there is devoid of service to me. So a devotee would accept only one or more of these different types of liberation only if they prove conducive for the service of the Lord. So a devotee certainly has no desire to come to the material world. So Jiva Goswami says that devotees have no interest in material enjoyment because they consider it completely devoid of significance or substantiality. Why should a discerning person abandon a touchstone to acquire a piece of glass? On the other hand, Bhagavatam says in the 2nd canto, 8th chapter, Dautatma Purusha Krishna Padamulam na munchati Mukta Seva Pariklesha Pantasva Sharanam Yata. A person whose heart has been washed clean never abandons Krishna's lotus feet. Just like a traveler who has arrived home, he is relieved of all distress. He never abandons Krishna's lotus feet. And then another argument, Jiva Goswami says that one may say that Jaya and Vijaya, they chose to become enemies of the Lord. No, that is a wrong explanation. They did not choose to become immediate. Somebody may say they chose to become enemies of the Lord in order to quickly relieve themselves from the curse of the Kumaras. No, that is not correct. In fact, Jaya Vijay, their only request was that we pray that your compassion be invoked and seeing our penitence, so that as we descend ever downward, we will not be overtaken by the bewilderment that causes forgetfulness of the Lord. Their only prayer is that may we never forget you when we go down to the material world. So therefore, for a Vaikuntha resident to give up the Bhagavan service and voluntarily come to the material world is highly illogical and against scriptural conclusions. So in the Bhagavad Gita 3rd chapter, Krishna says that Tadrisham cheshtate swasya prakriter jnanavan api prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati. Krishna says that everybody has his own acquired nature and it is very difficult to give up one's acquired nature. So even commonly we see that how it is so difficult to abandon one's conditioned nature. So then how much more difficult would it be for a resident of Vaikuntha to give up his eternal true nature? In the material world, we find it difficult to give up our conditioned artificial nature, which is an artificial imposition on the Atma. How much more difficult it would be for a Vaikuntha resident to give up his eternal true nature. So, just as a fire cannot exist without heat, a pure devotee in Vaikuntha cannot exist without service. And then finally, Jiva Goswami says that the freedom of will does not mean that acting frivolously. Nor does it imply having the power to manifest whatever it is one may desire. We have the freedom of will. In the Vaikuntha also the free will is there. But even if we desire to do so, we haven't, we have the power of, but even if we desire to do so, we have not the power or capacity to stand on our own shoulders. Moreover, the mere fact that drinking poison is within the range of decision-making possibilities doesn't mean that a person would likely choose to do so. How then would a Vaikuntha resident choose something that is altogether outside the range of experience and interest? So the freedom of will is not given to stand on our own shoulders. The freedom of will is given to express our love to Krishna. And the second hypothetical reason for falling from the spiritual world to material world is that a person, because of committing sins, one comes from the spiritual world to material world. When we consider this reason, there is no possibility of committing sin in the spiritual world because sin and piety exist only in the material world. Sound is coming. Sin and piety exist only in the material world. So a devotee in the spiritual world is situated in a swarupa, which is free from the covering of ignorance. Muktir hitva anyata rupam swarupena vyavastitihi. Mukti means to give up the subtle and gross body and be situated in one's original nature. And Krishna says in the Gita, Yataidamsi samiddogner basmasat kurute arjuna jnanagni dagda karmani basmasat kurute tata. All the sins are burnt in the fire of transcendental knowledge. Even if a person is the worst of the sinners, one will be able to cross the ocean of miseries with the transcendental knowledge. Bhagavatam says that Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya Vasudeva Parayana Agam Dunvanti Katsyena Niharam Iva Bhaskara. Some rare souls who are completely devoid of Lord Vasudeva, who are completely devoted to Vasudeva, totally destroy all their sins. Katsyena. Katsyena means completely. And further, in the Tattva Sandarbha, when it was explained regarding to Vyasadev's trance, it is said that Yasyam vai shruyamanayam Krishne Paramapurushe Bhaktir Utpadyate Pumsam Shoka Moha Bayapaha. Shoka Moha and Baya. By hearing Bhagavatam, it puts an end to Shoka, Moha and Baya. And Jiva Goswami explains in that commentary that even the most subtle impressions of sin are destroyed. And Krishna also told this to Uddhava in the Uddhava Gita. Just as a blazing fire burns the firewood to ashes, devotion to me completely burns my devotees' sins to ashes. And Krishna Shakha is also important. Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya Vasudeva Parayana Agam Dunvanti Katsyena completely. So then there is no possibility of a devotee committing sin in the spiritual world and then because of that a person falling to the material world. Okay, let us go to the third possibility. What is the third possibility? That a devotee is cursed by another devotee in the spiritual world or is cursed by the Supreme Lord. So Prahlad Maharaj says that Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarvair gunais tatra samasate sura. All the good qualities of the devatas arise in a pure devotee of the Lord. A devotee has no desire to harm even those who consider him as his enemy. Yasman no dvijate loko, lokan no dvijate chayaha. A devotee never will try to harm another person. Prahlad is the ideal example of that. Titikshava karunika suhruda sarvadehina ajata shatrava shanta sadhava sadhu bhushana. There are some stories in the Puranas where the devotees curse each other. There are stories. Ramayana we see Sita cursing Ravana, Lakshman, like that. But that is just for the sake of unfolding of the Leela. But no truly inimical feelings are present in the heart of a devotee towards other devotee or any other living entity. And even when devotees come to the material world as a result of a curse, like in the case of Jaya and Vijay being cursed by the four Kumaras, the devotees are not placed under the influence of the three gunas of nature. They remain for the prescribed duration and assist in the Lord's Bhauma Leela, the manifest pastimes on the earth. So Jaya Vijay's descent to the earth is not because of the curse of the Kumaras, it is because of the will of the Lord. It is impelled by the will of the Lord. That is very clearly mentioned by Prabhupada in the purport which I read last week. And it is very directly mentioned in the Bhagavatam shloka. The purport to this shloka only I read. 3.16.29. Bhagavan anugavaha yatamma vaishnamastusam brahmateja samartopi hantum neche matam tume. The Lord said to his ascendants, go, but fear not. May peace be with you. Although I am capable of stopping the Brahmana's curse, I do not wish to do so. In fact, I approve of it. That means it is very clearly saying that Jaya Vijay came to the material world because of the will of the Lord, not because they are cursed by the four Kumaras. So just like those who visit a prison, they do not become prisoners. A superintendent visits the prison, or a relative may visit a prisoner, but they do not become prisoners. Similarly, those devotees who are so-called cursed to come to this material world to assist in the Lord's Leela, They are not bound by the gunas of nature. The associates of Bhagavan are almost as powerful as Bhagavan himself, as stated in the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam, I think in the verse quoted is from the Narayana Kavacha pastime story. They saw him, not the Narayana Kavacha, I think they saw him with ever resembling a pair of full-blown autumn lotuses and surrounded by his 16 associates who appeared exactly like him, only without the mark of Srivatsa and Kaustubha jewel. So the word Atma Tulya in this verse means that the Lord's associates are just like his very own self. This means that they too are merciful, just like him. And thus they never desire to harm anyone. Atma Tulyai. The associates of Krishna are like Krishna. That means they will never desire to harm anyone. So why will a devotee curse another devotee to fall down from the spiritual world to material world? The third reason is ruled out. The fourth and fifth reason, let us take it together. Because of committing an offense to Bhagavan or to another devotee, a person falls down from the spiritual world to material world. So here we see a perfected devotee never commits an offense. Offenses are committed due to ignorance, resulting from forgetfulness of the Lord. Offense is an act that causes displeasure. But a Siddha devotee never forgets the Lord and he never desires to displease him, knowingly or unknowingly. And he is guided by the internal potency, just as a conditioned soul is always guided under the influence of the external energy. And moreover, if you remember when we discussed the Madhurya Kadambini, Vishwanath Chakravarti gives a gradation at which stage of bhakti which anarthas get destroyed. He talks about anarthas coming from four sources. Anarthas coming from one's piety, anarthas coming from one's sin, anarthas coming from mistakes committed, performing seva aparad, anarthas coming from Vaishnava aparad. Like that he discussed anarthas coming from various sources. And he discusses that while describing the devotee's progress from Shraddha to Prema, that when a devotee attains Prema, he is completely free from all types of offenses. And then when he attains the lotus feet of the Lord, there is not even the slightest possibility of committing an offense. Even the tendency to commit an offense, that will also person is relieved of that. And moreover, we see that another example of Chitraketu Maharaj. So those people who think that Chitraketu Maharaj offended Lord Shiva after having darshan of Shankarshat, one may say that, oh, you are saying that after attaining the lotus feet of the Lord, one cannot commit offense. But the Chitraketu Maharaj, he got darshan of Sankarshan, he attained the lotus feet of Sankarshan, and then he committed an offense. And then he committed an offense. So Vishwanath Chakravarti says that the king did not really offend Lord Shiva. So he gives more details. Because the effect of an offense is that a person's attraction to the Lord, affection for the Lord will reduce, will diminish. But in the case of Chitraketu Maharaj, even after he took birth as Vritrasur, he retained his love for the Lord. His affection for the Lord did not diminish at all. That is what we see in the Chaturshloki Bhagavatam. Further shloka. Aham hare tava padaika mulo dasanudaso bhavitasmi bhuyah manasmaretasu pater gunamste grihita vakkarma karotu kayah. Ajata paksha iva mataram kaga kanyam yata vatsatara kshudartha priyam priyeva vyushitam vishanna mano ravindaksha vidrikshate tvam. His affection for the Lord did not reduce at all. So Rupa Goswami also says in Bhakti Rasam Sindhu, an offense committed to the Lord's dear devotee, it can cause one's bhava to be lost altogether, or bhava can get transformed into a bhava bhasa, or the bhava can get downgraded to a lower bhava, depending on the gravity of the offense. But none of these things can happen once a devotee has attained the platform of prema. The conclusion is that a perfected devotee who has attained the Lord is free from all offenses. He can never commit an offense. Therefore, the fourth and fifth reasons are ruled out. And what is the sixth reason? The sixth reason is that one may say that Bhagavan himself may send a devotee away to the material world. But this is also impossible except in cases where he deliberately sends one of his eternal companions to the material world for the purpose of assisting in his Leela. And we know the series of verses Lord Vishnu speaks to Durvasa Muni. That how Lord says that Aham Bhakta Paradino Yasvatantra Ivadvija Sadhubir Grasta Hridayo Bhaktair Bhakta Janapriya Naham Atmanam Ashase Madbhaktai Sadhubir Vina Shriyam Chatyantikim Brahman Yesham Gatiraham Para. 6 verses which Lord Vishnu speaks. So these verses lucidly describe the Lord's intense affection for his devotees. All the opulences of Vaikuntha do not give me pleasure without the association of my devotees. So these verses were spoken by Lord Vishnu in relation to Ambarish Maharaj, who was a devotee staying in the material world. So how much more these verses will apply to devotees who are supremely perfect and who have been eternally rendering service to the Lord in the spiritual world. And moreover, Krishna assured Arjuna for any devotee in the material world, Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Shipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantim nigachyati. Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati.
Prabhuji, we lost you for some time.
Acha.
From Ambarish Maharaj,
Haan.
from there we lost you.
Yeah, what I mentioned is that the Lord is showing his affection for the Ambarish Maharaj, who is a devotee in the material world. Those verses. So how much more the Lord will have affection for the devotees in the spiritual world? Then why would the Lord desire to send the devotee in the spiritual world to the material world? It's completely illogical. Moreover, Krishna has mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. And this verse which Krishna has spoken in the Bhagavad Gita 9th chapter is spoken in reference to the devotees in the material world who accidentally engages in some sins. Apichesu duracharo bhajate ma mananya bhag sadhureva samantavya samyak vyavasito hi sar. After that, Krishna speaks this shloka. Shipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantim nigachyati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Even a devotee in the material world who accidentally engages in some sins, Krishna says they do not fall into the material conception of life. So inauspiciousness does not exist for the devotees of the Lord. Mahabharata is also quoted. Dasabhuto harereva nanyasyaiva kadachana. So therefore, the sixth reason is also ruled out. Why a devotee can fall down to the material world from the spiritual world. Sixth reason is also rolled out. So it has thus been shown that none of the above conditions that could hypothetically lead to a devotee's fall down exist even as possibilities in Vaikuntha. Because it is a place free from all such fear. Vaikuntha. It's a place of no anxiety. But still, somebody may say that, somebody may still have a suspicion. They say that there may be non-devotees in Vaikuntha to whom such arguments do not apply. There may be certain non-devotees in Vaikuntha. Such non-devotees in Vaikuntha can fall down from Vaikuntha because of these six above mentioned possibilities. Like that, one may give an argument. But to that, we reply that there are no non-devotees in Vaikuntha. Because mukti means what? Mukti means muktir hitva anyata rupam swarupena vyavasthiti. To give up all the other anyata rupam designations and to be situated in one swarupa, being a part of Krishna. That means he is a servant of the being who is the source. As stated in the Padma Purana, the living being is exclusively a servant of Lord Hari and nothing else. Dasabhuto hareryeva nanyasyaiva kadachana. Nanyasyaiva kadachana. So, no one can enter Vaikuntha or remain in Vaikuntha unless a person has attained devotion for the Lord. Rishabhadev confirms this. Evam manak karma vasam prayumte avidyayatman upadiyamane pritirna yavan mayi vasudeve namuchyate deha yogena tavat. Pritirna yavan mayi vasudeve. While the living being is covered by tamoguna, his mind is subject to result-oriented action. Result-oriented action means fruitive activities. Therefore, the jiva cannot be released from attachment to the body until love dawns for me, Sri Vasudeva. That means only a person has love for Krishna, only such a person goes to Vaikuntha. That means no non-devotees can stay in Vaikuntha. And in the principal verse of the anuccheda, it is said that the devotees have different relationships with the Lord. Rupa Goswami talks about the 5 primary rasas that the Lord enjoys with his devotees. So these are the Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya. Out of these 5, Shanta rasa is the least intensity. Shanta rasa is the, out of the 5 primary rasas, Shanta rasa is the lowest. There is a least intensity of love for Bhagavan in Shanta rasa. Nonetheless, even in Shanta rasa, they are completely devoid of material desires and have strong faith in Bhagavan. Shanta Bhaktas also cannot be considered non-devotees, nor is there any possibility of their falling down. In fact, commenting on this shloka, Yesham Aham Priya Atma, the principal verse of this Anuccheda, Vishwanath Chakravarti says that those who consider the Lord as Priya are the beloved, which refers to devotees in Madhurya Rasa. And those who consider the Lord as the Atma, the self, refers to devotees in Shanta Rasa. Those who consider Lord as their son refers to devotees in Vatsalya Rasa. Those who consider Lord as a friend refers to devotees in Sakya Rasa. And those who consider Lord as the Guru, respectful elder, they are in devotees in Dasya Rasa. So Vishwanath Chakravarti says that he says that the words Shanta Rupe, the abode of unadulterated peace, the same verse mean that Vaikuntha is beyond the material gunas. So although Vaikuntha is a place, its nature is identical to that of the Lord. Sachit Ananda. And therefore, it is thus unlike any material place. So the opulence of the devotees in Vaikuntha never perishes. That is to say, they never descend to the material dimension. This is confirmed by hundreds of verses both in Shruti and Smriti. So therefore, we see that there are no non-devotees in Vaikuntha. Even the Shantarasa devotees, they consider Lord as their Atma, as the very self. It refers to the peaceful mood of devotion, Shantarasa. Therefore, the idea that there may be certain non-devotees in Vaikuntha, they may fall down from Vaikuntha because of the 6 reasons. That argument is also ruled out. And there are so many other statements that Shruti and Smriti consistently is mentioning. Bhagavad Gita, we know, Yadgatva na nivartante taddama paramamama. And then we already quoted the shloka, 4th canto, 12th chapter, where the spiritual world is called as the Achyuta Padam, the place of no fall down. We see other references, Chandogya Upanishad. What is the shloka? Atmani sarvendriyani sampratishtapya himsam sarvabhutani anyatra tirtebhya sa kalu evam vartayan yavad ayusham brahmalokam abhisampadhyate nacha. See this last line. Nacha puna avartate. Nacha puna avartate. Nacha puna avartate. What is the meaning? Drawing his senses within, he does not cause violence to any being, other than in circumstances of mortal danger, where scripture may call for appropriate aggression. Remaining in this condition till the moment of death, he attains the spiritual abode. And after attaining that, nacha punar avartate, he does not return, he does not return. And the Vedanta Sutra, Vyasadev concludes the Vedanta Sutra with the sutra Anavritti Shabdat. Anavritti Shabdat. So to Vedanta Sutra, the meaning of the sutra is that having attained mukti, one does not fall down. You can take any commentary to this sutra by any sampradaya. Baladev Vidyabhushan or Ramanuja or Madhvacharya or even Shankaracharya, Advaita Sampradaya, any commentary by any this one, they say that mukti means is a place of no fall, including Sayujya Mukti. Even Sayujya Mukti, when a person attains Sayujya Mukti, one cannot fall down from that. So one may get a question that, like the Prabhupada often says that one falls down from Sayujya Mukti. How do we understand? So whenever Prabhupada talks about that, Prabhupada quotes a shloka from the 10th canto. Yenye Aravindaksha Vimukta Maninas Tvayasta Bhavat Avishuddha Buddhayah Aruhya Krichrena Parampadam Tata Patantyado Anadrita Yushma Dangrayah. Prabhupada quotes this shloka to show that how a person falls from Sayujya Mukti usually. But actually, if we consider the words in the shloka carefully, it's mentioned that Vimukta Manina. Vimukta means liberated. Vimukta Manina means those who consider themselves to be liberated, or those who think themselves to be liberated, or those who imagine themselves to be liberated. Such people, because of being averse to the lotus feet of the Lord, they fall down. So it is not talking about the people who are liberated, they fall down. Because those who are liberated, even those who attain Sayujya Mukti, they can never fall down. Because that is the Vedanta Sutra, Anavritti Shabdat, Anavritti Shabdat. Bhagavatam being the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, it cannot go against the Vedanta Sutra. Therefore, from Mukti, Whether from Sayujya Mukti or from any of the personal Mukti, one cannot fall down. So, but there is a stage before the stage of attaining liberation, that is called as a Jivan Mukta stage. From that stage, a person can fall down if a person becomes averse to lotus feet of the Lord. So, in that way, we can defend Prabhupada's statement. So, it's not referring to the fall down from the stage of Mukti. And let us see other references. That is the Anavriti Shabda, Vedanta Sutra, last shloka. In fact, he repeats that. Same thing. Chandogya Upanishad says that Nacha Punar Avartate, Nacha Puna Avartate. Baladev Vidyabhushan, while commenting on this sutra, this Vedanta Sutra, he confirms the same by quoting the following mantra from Chandogya Upanishad. What is that? Sa yenan Brahma Gamayat Yesha Devapato Brahmapata Yetena Pratipadyamana Imam Manavam Avartam Na Avartante Na Avartante Na Avartante Na Avartante. You can see clearly that they do not come back. He leads them to Brahman. This is the path of godly that leads to the Lord. Those who walk on this path do not return to the human life. Surely they do not come back. And Baladev Diabhushan says that Bhagavan is determined not to abandon his devotees. And his devotees are equally determined to love him. Thus, they can never leave him. One should never doubt this. And then, while instructing Yudhishthira Maharaj in the Aranya Dwadashi Vrata, Sri Krishna says in Bhavishya Purana Uttara Parva. Let us read this shloka. Tato yani param sthanam mokshamargam shivam sukam yatra gatva na shochanti no samsare brahmanti cha. Again, very similar. Therefore, they attain the auspicious and blissful abode of liberation. Having attained it, they neither lament for anything nor return to the cycle of birth and death. And then again, Bhagavad Gita, Yadgatvana Nivartanti Tadama Paramamama. And there are many other such verses in the Gita. Mamupetyatu Kaunteya Dukale Mashashvatam Napnuvanti Mahatmana Samsiddhim Paramam Gataha. Samsiddhim Paramam Gataha. Janma Karma Chame Divyam Yevam Yoveti Tatvatha Tyaktva Deham Punarjanma Naiti Mameti Sorjuna. Many other shlokas. There is no Punarjanma for such a person. There is no Punarjanma. There are other shlokas if you see. Abrahma Bhuvana Loka. So, despite the clarity of this evidence, one might claim that the above verses mean that those who reach Vaikuntha from the material world, they would never return. But then those people who have never seen the material world, they can fall down. Like that, one may give an argument. In other words, those who have achieved Vaikuntha have experienced the miseries of the material world, but the Nitya Siddhas are ignorant of the miseries of the material world. Therefore, they are subject to fall down. So, just like there's a Hindi saying,
दूध का धुला दूध का छाछ को फूक फूक कर पीता है सब दूध का जला
So there was a hot milk or jala hua hot milk. The cat drank that and its tongue got burnt. And next time the chas was kept. Although the chas was kept, it is trying to blow air upon it, thinking that this is also like this will also be hot milk. It will burn my tongue. So people may say that the souls who have gone from the material world to the spiritual world, because they have experienced the miseries of the material world, they will not fall down. So these verses are referring to those living entities. But those people who have never experienced the material world's miseries, this is the devotees. About them, these verses are not applicable to them. They can fall down from the spiritual world to the material world. Like that, one may give an argument. But this is an inconsistent argument. Because before reaching Vaikuntha, the devotee casts off his gross and subtle bodies. The gross and subtle bodies of the material world, they are not present in the spiritual world only. That means even whenever a person has a subtle body, the subtle body is only carrying the impressions. Subtle body is only carrying the impressions of what we have done in the past. But even the devotees who have gone from the material world to the spiritual world, their subtle bodies are gone actually. They have cast off the subtle body. That means even those people who have gone from the material world to the spiritual world, they will not have the remembrance of the miseries of the material world, because their subtle bodies are already destroyed. So therefore, that argument itself is invalid. And in the those people in the Nithis of the devotees in the spiritual world, what about them actually? The experience of the material world remains in the subtle body, so the devotee does not carry it with him. In the material world, we carry a stock of impressions in our subtle body. So how much of it do we remember? Indeed, we cannot recollect most of the things we have done even in this lifetime. So how then is to be expected that a liberated being would remember the miseries of the material world? And why would he? What is the gain? Is the remembrance of the past material miseries more captivating than the immediate and the present ecstasy of service to the Lord? Is it that he's because I experienced so much of miseries in material world, so therefore I don't want to go there? Is that remembrance of the past miseries, is that the more prominent thought in his mind, or the ecstasy of serving the Lord? So whenever sustained joy fills a person's life, memories of past pain or suffering fade into the background. Moreover, even if the devotee, after attaining Vaikuntha, wanted to recall his former material experience, he no longer has a subtle body in which all the impressions would be stored. The memories are wiped clean without a trace. That is why Rupa Goswami says that bhakti destroys all the varieties of karma when he explains in relation to Kleshagni. And it has been shown logically that falling from Vaikuntha is not possible under any circumstances. Nor is there any scriptural evidence to support such an event. However, there are many scriptural texts to the effect that it is impossible to fall down from the spiritual world, regardless of whether one has resided there eternally or has attained it after many lifetimes in the material world. So, already we have logically shown that falling from Vaikuntha is not possible under any circumstances. And there are no scriptural evidence also to support that. And moreover, there are so many scriptural evidence to show that it is impossible to fall down from the spiritual world, regardless of whether one was a Nitya Siddha devotee or a Sadhana Siddha. So still, one may still, in order to ask the remaining doubt, have the Nitya Siddhas attained Vaikuntha or not? So this point will take up in the I will take up in the next class. Because there are more in the purport. We'll discuss that. One more thing I want to show. This is from Gaur Govind Maharaj. Gaur Govind Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada's one of the very senior disciples. Gaur Govind Maharaj, in his biography, the book called as From When Good Fortune Arises. So he actually talks about this, like this viewpoint, Jiva fell from the spiritual world, that has been made as a resolution by the ISKCON GBC. So he actually he mentions he mentions the thought process went into making the resolution. This is a very profound write-up. With this, we'll conclude. Another contentious issue rose at the GBC meetings in 1995. A resolution was passed stating that the living entities in the material world originally fell from the spiritual world, where they were engaged in a relationship with Krishna. Not everyone agreed, but it passed by a majority vote. Something like a democratic process. Usually, a democratic process cannot be followed for a Siddhantic, this one. Some core issues of Siddhanta, democratic process should not be followed. Because it is about the scriptural truth. It's not about the what the maximum number of votes. So it was not everyone agreed, but it passed by majority vote. So Gaur Govind Maharaj was one of the GBC members who voted against the proposal. He was unhappy when the resolution passed, as he felt it was not appropriate to vote on what is Siddhanta and what is not. He pointed out that although in his lectures, sometimes Srila Prabhupada said that the living entities originated in the spiritual world, in his books, Prabhupada presented what he called the conclusion that nobody leaves that abode. Since Srila Prabhupada clearly said both things, Gaur Govind Maharaj was unhappy that one side was emphasized and the devotees were forbidden to preach the other. The lecture he gave on his return from the meetings in Mayapur gave some indication of his feelings towards how the Jiva issue and other controversial issues should be dealt with. So this is an important thing, because Gaur Govind Maharaj was such a faithful disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He very strongly preached. In the 90s, sometimes many devotees left ISKCON in order to take shelter of some other, say, spiritual gurus, etc. For thinking that Prabhupada did not give everything. In order to get some higher rasa, in order to get something higher philosophy, we have to go elsewhere. Like that, many people with that thought they left ISKCON. But Gaur Govind Maharaj, he would preach that everything is there in Srila Prabhupada's books. And he would preach very strongly. So he was very loyal disciple of Prabhupada. At the same time, Prabhupada, he actually, he said that he emphasized what Prabhupada mentioned in his purport, that nobody can fall from the spiritual world. Although Prabhupada said elsewhere that one can fall from the spiritual world. The same, so we have to understand that this statement is coming from somebody who had deep loyalty to Prabhupada, not from somebody who was rebellious or something. So let us read this. The purpose of the GBC body is to help mitigate philosophical disputes. Prabhupada said that these things should be discussed with a, again, cool head, not a hot head, not in a hurried way. So that means that the whole issue was handled in a hurried manner. Probably the people who discussed in the meeting were discussed in a little hot-headed manner. That's what Gaur Govind Maharaj is saying. When some philosophical dispute comes up, what shall we do? If some apparently contradictory statements come up, how will they be reconciled? It is not an easy thing to understand. one should contemplate the circumstances, the time and place that it was spoken in. And then he says that Lord Buddha came at a certain time when people were unnecessarily killing animals. Sadaya Hridaya Darshita Pashugatam. Buddha felt so much pain in his heart seeing the unnecessary killing of innocent animals. He came to stop it. But the persons who are killing, he said, why are you stopping us? Vedas gave the prescription. We are performing this animal killing based on the Vedas. They could not understand that the Vedas, these people could not understand the Vedas because they were in such a low level of consciousness. They were covered with Tamoguna and Rajoguna. They were not in Sattva-guna. There was no Sattva-guna in them at all. How could they understand the Vedas? Therefore, according to time, place and circumstance, Buddha told that throw your Veda. Why did he, from whom the Vedas emanate, say like that? Veda is the mother, Veda is the authority. But why did he say like that? But for the particular time, place and circumstance, in order to stop that indiscriminate animal killing, in order to show compassion towards those animals, and in order to show compassion towards those people who are killing the animals. Therefore, he actually spoke that emergency philosophy. So therefore, some activities are tatkalika, specific to a time, and others are sarvakalika, for all time. By tatkalika consideration, according to time, place and circumstances, acharyas will do what is needed. Tatkalika is not always siddhanta. Sarvakalika is for all time. It is siddhanta. There are many instances wherever acharyas preach the tatkalika. One such instance is Prabhupada preaching the jiva coming from the spiritual world. Even Krishna preached the karma mimamsa siddhanta in the Govardhan Leela. But the same Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita and Uddhava Gita, he refused the karma mimamsa. Therefore, what he preached in the Govardhan Leela is a tatkalika, that he spoke to Nanda Maharaj in order to anger Indra and in order to remove the pride of Indra. But some people will say, we don't want to understand all these things. We know what is Siddhanta. Everything is decided by majority vote. The majority said that goat is a dog, so the goat became a dog. And no more speaking, finished. So if we see, one of the very important instruction of Srila Prabhupada is that he said that in one of the letters he says that every year in the GBC meeting one should discuss the principle of unity in diversity. How to apply unity in diversity. One should discuss this. Prabhupada said in one place that if you want to maintain the movement successfully running, you implement the principle of unity in diversity. That is how he gave importance to the principle of unity in diversity. You discuss this in the meetings, and the unity in diversity only will actually maintain the movement successfully. So if we see, the people who have the opinion Jiva came from the spiritual world, and people who have the opinion Jiva did not come from the spiritual world, both accept Krishna as the Supreme Lord, both accept Bhakti is the process of Abhidaya, both accept Prema is the ultimate goal. So there is unity in Sambandha Jnana, Abhidaya and Prayojana. And if they have diverse opinion, then following this instruction of Prabhupada means facilitating both the opinions. Facilitating both the opinion, that both the opinions are valid. That is what it means, following the instruction of Prabhupada to implement unity in diversity. And if we say only this opinion is correct, the other opinion cannot be preached at all, that means we are not following the instruction of Srila Prabhupada of unity in diversity. So then further, there are so many quotations in Srila Prabhupada's book that state that the Jiva never falls from Vaikuntha. I quoted those quotations. When there are apparently contradictory statements, what should be done? I told them that Srila Prabhupada has given direction in this regard. In that case, you have to consult the previous acharyas. You have to consult the Vedic authority. If you don't follow Srila Prabhupada's direction and consult previous acharyas and shastra, then how can you solve this problem? The poet William Blake said, "We both read the Bible day and night. You read black and I read white." Similarly, we both read Prabhupada's books day and night, but you read black and I read white. And now we fight, and might is right. Everything is decided by voting right. At last, I quoted Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Mahajana Vani. Keno ara koro dvesha videshi jana bhajane bhajanera linga nana deshe nana jane. Why do you continue to hate the way the Lord is worshipped by people of other lands? There exist a number of authentic ways to worship God according to the customs of various peoples living in different countries. Keho mukta kache baje, keho hatu gadi puje. Keho va navana mudi take brahma aradhane. Some people worship the Lord in an untidy or careless manner. Some people worship Him by bending down on their knees. Still others close their eyes while worshipping His impersonal Brahman aspect. Keho yogasane puje, keho sankirtane maje. Sakale bajiche sei ekamatra Krishna dane. Some people worship Him by assuming various yoga postures. Some people immerse themselves in the congregation chanting of the Lord's holy names. But all of them worship that one and only supreme treasure, Lord Shri Krishna. Atayeva Bhartrubhave Tako Sabe Su Sadbhave Hari Bhakti Sadho Sada Yei Jivane Va Marane. Therefore, you should all reflect a mood of brotherhood and live together in transcendental friendship. Always practice devotional service to Lord Hari, whether in situations of life or death. Hari Bhakti Sadho Sada Yei Jivana Va Marane. I quoted this as a conclusion and said, we should not fight on this issue. Fighting is not good for the individual or for the society. We should live as brothers, as friends. No fighting. If we fight, then bhakti will be lost to us. We will lose everything. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said that. So, this is a very profound thing of Gaur Govind Maharaj. So we see that from Shastric point of view, there is only one opinion. Jiva can never fall from the spiritual world, and there is Anadi Avidya. But Prabhupada has mentioned these Tatkalika statements because the conditioned mind from the Western background or scientific background is conditioned to the conception of cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. So therefore, sometimes acharyas have spoken like that. So we have to understand that those statements are Tatkalika and not Sarvakalika. Hare Krishna. We will see the further things in the purport. Maybe next week or one more class will conclude this. And then go to the next annotation.
Wow. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. It was wonderful class.
Correct.
One minute. I just wanted to understand, Prabhu. You gave that the Jiva never falls down from Vaikuntha. But there are, of course, not question of falling down, but there are Jivas traveling from Vaikuntha to here, like a Nitya Siddha, Sadhat, Parshadas, all those people. Though it is not counted in the way of falling down, yet they come and suffer.
No, that is not a fall down. They come to assist in the Lord's pastimes. Fall down means what? Fall down means you forget the Lord and you fall down to a lower level of consciousness. But the jivas coming from the spiritual world to the material world, for assisting in the Lord's pastimes, they never forget Krishna. That is why I mentioned that Vritrasur, Chitraketu Maharaj, after attaining shelter of Sankarshan, then he became a demon, but his consciousness did not waver a little bit. That is like those jivas coming from the vaikuntha spiritual material world. They are like jail superintendent entering the prison cell for the reformation of the prisoners in the prison house. It's not that he has committed a crime to enter the prison house. Moreover, even the Jaya Vijay story, there is a mentioned, I'll show you the purport later. I think 8th canto one purport is there. The 8th canto in the Bali Maharaj when he was fighting, there's a description. In one purport, it is explained that Jaya Vijay in one form came to the material world, took birth as the demons, but in another form, they remained in Vaikuntha as Jaya Vijay. So there is a pramana for that. Correct.
Yeah, thank you, bro.
I think in Bali Maharaj they had mentioned, no, this Jai Vijay again it comes.
Yeah. I'll show you that purport. That purport only is mentioned. Jai Vijay in one form they come to the material world, in another form they remain in the spiritual world.
So this Jivan Muktas, they have no material desires, but they are averse to Lord. So they will go to the hellish planet. And the ones who have material desires but have no aversion to the Lord will achieve a higher destination than the Jivan Muktas, though they have material desires.
They have material desire, they will remain within the material world. Jivan Mukta, it is not mentioned that they will go to hell or something, but they will fall from the Jivan Mukta platform to the material consciousness, the condition, this one.
But averse to the Lord means Mayavadis, no? Because they will be hellish planets, no? Because aversion means hell. You
not
can't
be immediately hellish. In the material world, they will remain. They will come to the material. They can immediately. It's not that they will be sent to hell. So they fall down from that position. That's what is mentioned. Aruhya krichrena param padam tata patantyado anadrita yushmadandra. So many Mayavadis, they are strict followers of the Vedas. So they remain bound to the different designations in the material world. And then when they further commit more and more, suppose they come further degrade themselves, then they will go to hell or something.
Okay, so this is regarding not Golok Vrindavan, I mean not the highest planet, but the Vaikuntha planets. So is there a gradation of in purity, like
From any
are
Vaikuntha planet, one cannot fall down.
Yeah,
From
that is
any
true.
Vaikuntha.
That you explained in detail. But over there in Vaikuntha planet, the residents, will there be any, like there'll be a topmost, like there'll be any gradation in purity, like all will be on the same level? I'm not talking of the rasa, not the five rasa, but
Rasa point of view, there is a gradation. But
yeah,
otherwise, all of them are, they don't have any material desires at all. There is no desire for their own pleasure. So we will also see one of the characteristics of Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha can be attained only by pure devotion, in which a person considers even mukti as insignificant. So that is a thing. Rasa point of view, there is a gradation, but otherwise, Tattva point of view, all are pure devotees. Prabhupada says in Nectar of Devotion, one place, a grass in Vaikuntha and a Srimati Radharani are on the same level from Tattva point of view. From Rasa point of view, of course, Srimati Radharani is the
Any example for such a Atma Mukta, Jivan Mukta personalities falling down? Any mentioned in anywhere in Bhagavatam?
Shloka is mentioned. Personalities, such it's not mentioned. Shloka is that Yeni Aravindaksha, that shloka is that. The Prabhupada sometimes he says that many Mayavadis, they come down to the political sphere or social activities. So that when they are not satisfied in that position, after say Jivan Mukta or something, they come down to the political position.
But we also understand that this Mayavadi concept is the product of Kali Yuga, is it right?
No, it is an eternal disease, not a Kali Yuga.
Okay.
Just like a common cold. It is present in all times and all places. Similarly, Nirvisheshavad and Shunyavad, to think that absolute truth is Shunya, or absolute truth is without Vishesha, without Visheshanas. To consider the Visheshanas of the absolute truth are Maya, his body or his qualities or his pastimes or his abode. They are all made of Maya. To consider that is the Nirvisheshavad. Visheshanas. So, because we in this world itself, when you go to suppose even there is a birthday party on the birthday of your friend or something, we glorify the friend by talking about his Visheshanas. Oh, this my friend is sweet. He speaks sweetly, or he always helps others, or he has these clean habits. We always glorify a person by using the Visheshanas, adjectives, the qualities. When you write a resume, your basically resume is filled with your Visheshanas. Got this degree, this much marks, worked in this company, experience in this company, did this project. All these are about your Visheshanas. Marriage, horoscope or this one, that is also, we fill that with our Visheshanas. And if somebody says that all these Visheshanas are false, these are all Maya, these are all meaningless, and then how would that person feel like? A person has written a 10-page resume with all the Visheshanas about his achievements and his qualities and adjectives, this degree and this one. If somebody says that, all these Visheshanas are false, they are illusion, how would a person in this world feel? Or is on a birthday, somebody is your friend's birthday, you go there, and the friend is nicely decorated with the new dress and everything, and you just say that I just see a white light in him. Then how would the person feel like? So then in this world where our Visheshanas are material, then we feel so much hurt. And the Lord's Visheshanas are spiritual. Whether his body or ornaments or his qualities or pastime, they're all spiritual. And then when you say the Visheshanas are Maya, that is a Nirvisheshavad. It's this tendency is there always. The Prabhupada went to destroy the Nirvisheshavad and the Shunya. Arrange.
So, Prabhuji, sorry, just one last question. You yourself mentioned that Prabhupada said that these people, Jivan Muktas, come down as politicians, etc. So, I just want to understand. So, these Jivan Muktas, which I thought they had no material desires and they were averse to Lord. So, Jivan Muktas are the one who have material desires and they are averse to Lord, right? Is this the definition? Then how are they called Jivan Mukta? In what way they are Muktas then?
There's gradations of liberation. They are not completely liberated. They're not completely liberated. So they are freed from the material desires. But because of being averse to the Lord, because of that, they again fall down to the material position. There is a shloka, we'll just show you that shloka. And
Gaur Govind Maharaj speaks only in Hindi, no, Prabhuji? Or even
English
in
also.
English.
English classes are there. English, I think, Odia classes. And, this is a verse. This is the two verses describe the state of the Jivan Mukta. 37 and 38. Because he has attained his Swarupa, because he has attained perfection, the last state, he does not see his body, whether it has arisen from a chair or remains there, or whether it is coming or going by fate, just as a drunk man does not know if he is wearing cloth or not. Next verse. The body, along with the senses controlled by previous impressions, continues to live as long as the prarabdha karmas remain. That person does not again enjoy the body or its extension, such as sons, since he has attained samadhi and has attained his position as the Atma. The body is like a dream body. And then the next shloka. Few verses later. The shloka. Evam harau bhagavati. Okay. This is the shloka. Evam harau bhagavati. Pratilabdha bhavo. The unfortunate yogi who has developed a love for the Lord, full of all sweet qualities, whose heart is somewhat soft because of devotion, whose body has stand and end in ecstasy, who is constantly overcome with intense tears of joy, gradually withdraws his hook-like mind from the Lord's form. Gradually withdraws his hook-like mind from the Lord's form, and then such a person, when the mind of that foolish yogi, still under the shelter of the Lord, becomes devoid of material objects and is detached from all material objects, that mind suddenly gets destroyed, just as a flame dies without oil and wick. The Jiva, having destroyed misconception of this body, then sees his Atma without coverings. Having described the conduct of the inferior yogi, Kapila now describes the condition of the mind which gives up the form of the Lord. So by final cessation of the mind through yoga practice, the Jiva becomes situated in his true position, railing himself to Atma, he sees the cause of his happiness. Yeah, we have to read the statements a little more carefully. But the point is that those who think themselves to be liberated, but those who are not completely liberated, and because of being averse to the lotus feet of the Lord, they fall down. They fall down. So, whether the person is actually called as Jivan Mukta, yeah, he's not truly Jivan Mukta, as you said, because they think themselves to be liberated. They are not completely liberated. And because of aversion to the lotus feet of the Lord, they fall down. And
Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, that stage they wanted to go, but they, of fall down because of aversion to Lord, right?
Therefore, Prabhupada, when he is speaking about fall down, it's referring to the Vimukta Manina, not those who actually attain liberation. Because once a person has attained liberation, one cannot fall down, including Sayujya Mukti. A person attains Sayujya Mukti, one cannot fall down, because it will contradict the Anavritti Shabdat, and so many other statements. Because Mukti is a state from where nobody can fall down. But somebody before the stage of Mukti, because of aversion to the personal form of Bhagavan, then one can fall down. Hare Krishna.
So Sayuji is also that only, no? Person, he wants to merge with the form of the.
That is not aversion.
Acha, okay.
That's not aversion to the personal form of the Lord. There is no attitude of offense to the form of the Lord. He knows the Lord's form is spiritual, but he prefers to remain in the impersonal Brahmajyoti. So he doesn't commit offense to the Lord. Hare Krishna. We'll stop here. Next week, the time being, we'll have the class on Monday, 8 o'clock. But next week is Mayapur Yatra. I'll see next week when we can have class. Correct.
So there is no chance of upgrading oneself for people who are actually fixed in avatars of the Lord. Like if they are in the worshipping the avatars of the Lord in those planets, so for them to upgrade themselves is not possible. I mean, they are happy there only.
They are happily situated there. They feel, although we may see that 300 ml mango juice, 400 ml mango juice, 500 ml mango juice, there is a gradation in each of the glass, 300, 400, 500. But each glass is filled to the brim. Filled to the brim. So because of that, there is no chance of pouring more. So there is a gradation because the size of the glass is more, but each glass is filled to the brim. So you can't pour more. So similarly, each devotee who is situated in whichever relationship with the Lord, he feels that I'm completely full. But that is how the Lord gives full satisfaction to him. He feels completely full. But at the same time, from an observer's point of view, a person who is having the 300 ml glass, he feels that my glass is completely full. And he doesn't see the other person's glass measurement. He doesn't see the measurement of the other person's glass. He feels his glass is completely full and he is focused on drinking the mango juice in his own glass. He doesn't see the other's glass only. But from an observer who is seeing the three people who are drinking the mango juice, he is able to perceive the difference in the gradation. Oh, this is a 300 ml. Oh, this is a little bigger glass. This is a bigger glass. He is able to see the gradation. But from the point of view of the person who is drinking glass, he feels completely full. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.